Thomas returns home after a hard day to find his wife, Emily, in the arms of her best friend. Her confession is shocking. She wants an open relationship. The betrayal shatters his world, but Thomas doesn't give up. He comes up with a revenge plan that will turn their lives upside down. Will he succeed in restoring justice without losing himself? Find out how this drama unfolds and share your opinion in the comments. Thomas Clark, a 35-year-old architect, pulled into the driveway of his suburban Seattle home, exhausted from a long day of meetings. The clock on his dashboard read 7:32 p.m., and all he wanted was a quiet evening with his wife, Emily. They'd been married for 7 years. Their life a steady rhythm of shared routines and unspoken trust. Or so he thought. As he grabbed his briefcase and stepped out of the car, a faint unease stirred in his gut, though he couldn't place why. He unlocked the front door and called out, "Em, I'm home." Silence greeted him. No clatter of dishes from the kitchen, no hum of the TV. The house felt oddly still. He dropped his keys on the counter and headed upstairs, assuming Emily was reading or catching up on work. The bedroom door was slightly ajar, and as he pushed it open, his world tilted. Emily was on the bed, tangled in an embrace with her best friend, Kate. Their laughter froze as they noticed him. Emily's eyes widened, her face paling as she scrambled to sit up. Kate, equally startled, pulled back, her expression a mix of guilt and defiance. Thomas stood rooted to the spot, his briefcase slipping from his hand to the floor with a dull thud. His mind raced, trying to process the scene. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was real. "Thomas, Emily started, her voice shaky. She stood, smoothing her hair as if that could erase what he'd just seen. "I didn't expect you home so soon." "Didn't expect me?" Thomas's voice was low, sharp. "What the hell is this, Emily?" His heart pounded, anger and betrayal colliding in his chest. He glanced at Kate, who avoided his gaze, her silence deafening. Emily took a step toward him, her hands raised as if to calm storm. "Please, let me explain. It's not what you think." But her words faltered under his stare. She took a deep breath, then said, "I've been feeling something for Kate. Something more than friendship. I was going to talk to you about it." Thomas blinked, her words hitting like a punch. "Talk to me? About what?" "That you're cheating on me with her." He pointed at Kate, who still hadn't spoken. The room felt suffocating, the air thick with tension. "It's not cheating," Emily said quickly, her voice gaining a defensive edge. "I want us to explore something different. Together. Open our relationship. I thought maybe you'd be okay with it." Thomas laughed, a bitter sound that echoed in the quiet room. "Okay with it? You think I'd be fine with you and Kate?" He stopped, unable to finish the sentence. The idea was absurd, a betrayal dressed up as a proposal. He loved Emily, had built his life around her, and now she was rewriting the rules without warning. Kate finally spoke, her voice soft but firm. "I should go." She stood, grabbing her bag from the floor. "This is between you two." "No, stay," Thomas snapped, his anger flaring. "You're part of this, aren't you? Don't run now." Kate hesitated, then sat back down, her jaw tight. Emily moved closer to Thomas, her eyes pleading. "I know this is a lot. I didn't mean for you to find out like this. But I'm being honest with you now. I feel something for Kate, and I don't want to hide it. I thought we could figure this out together." Thomas stepped back, his mind a whirlwind of shock and disbelief. "Figure it out? You're asking me to share you with her. After 7 years, you think that's something I'd just accept?" His voice cracked, betraying the hurt beneath his anger. "I'm not asking you to decide right now," Emily said, her tone softer. "Just think about it. Please." Thomas shook his head, the weight of her words crushing. He needed air, space, anything to clear the chaos in his head. "I can do this right now," he said, turning toward the door. "I need to think." "Thomas, wait." Emily called, but he was already halfway down the stairs. He grabbed his car keys and left, the door slamming behind him. As he drove into the night, the image of Emily and Kate burned in his mind. His marriage, his trust, everything he thought he knew, it was all unraveling. But one thing was clear, he wasn't going to let this break him. Not without a fight. Thomas gripped the steering wheel, the Seattle skyline blurring past as he drove aimlessly through the night. His confrontation with Emily replayed in his mind. Her confession, Kate's silence, the audacity of her proposal to open their marriage. The betrayal cut deep, but what gnawed at him more was the question. How long had this been going on? He needed answers, not just for his marriage, but for his own sanity. By 9:15 p.m., he pulled into a dimly lit parking lot near a bar he and his friend Mike often visited. Mike, a pragmatic financial analyst, always had a way of cutting through emotional fog. Inside, Thomas spotted Mike at a corner table, already nursing a beer. "You look like hell," Mike said as Thomas slid into the seat across from him. "What's up?" Thomas ordered a drink, then leaned forward, his voice low. "Emily's cheating on me. With Kate." The words felt heavy, real now that he'd said them aloud. Mike's eyebrows shot up, but he stayed quiet, waiting for more. Thomas recounted the scene, walking in on them, Emily's suggestion of an open relationship, the way Kate just sat there. "She says she's being honest, but it feels like she's rewriting our entire marriage." Mike took a slow sip of his beer, processing. "That's a lot, man. What do you know about her and Kate? Was this a one-time thing, or—" "I don't know," Thomas admitted, frustration creeping into his voice. "She claims it's just feelings, but I'm not buying it. How do you go from best friends to this without something happening?" His drink arrived, and he stared at it, untouched. "I thought I knew her, Mike. 7 years, and now this." Mike leaned back, his tone measured. "You need to figure out what's really going on before you decide anything. People don't just flip a switch like that. Maybe there's history you don't know about." He paused, then added, "And you need to ask yourself what you want. Divorce? Counseling? Or are you even considering her proposal?" Thomas scoffed. "Share her with Kate? No way. That's not who I am." But even as he said it, doubt flickered. Was he being too rigid? Could he lose Emily if he didn't at least try to understand? The thought made his stomach churn. "I just want the truth," he said finally. "If she's been lying, I need to know." "Then start digging," Mike said bluntly. "Check her phone, emails, whatever. Not to snoop, but to protect yourself. If she's serious about Kate, there's a chance she's planning more than she's letting on." The idea of spying felt wrong, but Thomas couldn't shake the image of Emily and Kate together. He nodded, resolve hardening. "Yeah, I'll figure it out." Back home, the house was dark. Emily had left a note on the counter. "Went to stay at my sister's. Let's talk tomorrow. I love you." Thomas crumpled it, anger flaring. Love? After this? He poured a glass of water and sat at the kitchen table, his mind racing. Sleep wasn't an option, not with so many questions unanswered. Around midnight, he grabbed Emily's tablet, left unlocked on the counter. Guilt pricked at him, but he pushed it aside. He opened her messages, scrolling through her chats with Kate. Most were mundane, work gripes, weekend plans, but one thread from a week ago stopped him cold. Emily had written, "I can't stop thinking about us. What if we could make it work this time?" Kate's reply, "We need to be careful. Thomas can't know yet." The words hit like a sledgehammer. This time? Yet? There was history, and Emily had kept it from him. His hand shook as he kept reading. Another message, dated 2 days ago. "I'll talk to him soon. If he's open, we can all be together." Thomas's jaw tightened. She'd been planning this, testing the waters while he was clueless. But the worst came in a recent text from Kate. "If he says no, what then? Are you ready to choose?" Emily's response was vague. "I don't know," but it was enough to confirm his fears. She was already imagining a future that might not include him. Thomas set the tablet down, his pulse pounding. The betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was calculated. He thought of their wedding vows, their shared dreams of starting a family. Had any of it mattered to her? He opened his laptop and searched for Private Investigator Seattle, his fingers moving with purpose. If Emily was hiding more, he'd find out. And if she was planning to leave him for Kate, he'd protect himself first. By 2 a.m., he'd email the detective, outlining his suspicions and requesting discretion. He also booked a consultation with a divorce lawyer for the following week, just in case. As he shut the laptop, a strange calm settled over him. He wasn't the one breaking their marriage. Emily had done that. Now, he'd take control, whatever the truth turned out to be. Thomas woke to the buzz of his phone at 6:47 a.m., his neck stiff from sleeping on the couch. The private investigator, Rachel Holt, had replied to his late-night email. "Available to meet today, 10 a.m. Bring any evidence you have." He rubbed his eyes, the weight of Emily's betrayal settling back in. Her tablet, still on the kitchen table, held proof of her secret plans with Kate, messages hinting at a past relationship and a future that might exclude him. He wasn't just hurt, he was done being played. Today, he'd start fighting back. He showered, grabbed the tablet, and drove to a coffee shop in downtown Seattle where Rachel had suggested meeting. She was already there, a no-nonsense woman in her 40s, scrolling through her phone at a corner table. Thomas sat down, sliding the tablet toward her. "This is what I found," he said, keeping his voice low. "Emily's been texting Kate about making it work this time. I think they're planning to leave me out of the picture." Rachel skimmed the messages, her expression neutral. "This is a start," she said. "But we need more: financial records, travel plans, anything showing intent. If they're serious, there'll be a trail." She handed him a form. "Sign this to authorize my work. I'll track their movements, check for hidden accounts, and dig into Kate's background." "You want leverage, right?" "Leverage, yes," Thomas said, signing the form. "But also the truth. If Emily's lying about how deep this goes, I need to know." He hesitated, then added, "And I want to protect what's mine. We have a house, savings. I'm not losing everything because she's chasing a fantasy." Rachel nodded. "Smart. I've seen cases like this. People get sloppy when they're distracted by new relationships. I'll start today. Expect an update in 48 hours. Thomas left the meeting with a flicker of control returning. He wasn't helpless anymore. Back at his office, Thomas struggled to focus on blueprints, his mind on Emily. She'd texted earlier. "Can we talk tonight? I'm sorry about yesterday." He ignored it. Talking now would tip her off, and he needed Rachel's findings first. Instead, he logged into their joint bank account, something he rarely checked since Emily handled their finances. His stomach dropped. A $5,000 transfer to an unfamiliar account had gone through 3 days ago, labeled consulting fees. Emily hadn't mentioned any side gigs. He screenshot the transaction and emailed it to Rachel, his suspicion growing. That evening, Thomas met his lawyer, David Reese, at a sleek office near the waterfront. David, a sharp divorce attorney recommended by Mike, listened as Thomas laid out the situation. Emily's affair, the tablet messages, the mysterious transfer. "If she's moving money, we can freeze the accounts," David said, jotting notes. "But we need proof of infidelity or financial misconduct to strengthen your case. Your PI's on the right track. In the meantime, open a separate account and redirect your paycheck there. Protect your income." Thomas nodded, the advice grounding him. "What about the house? It's in both our names. We'll push for you to keep it, especially if she's misusing joint funds," David replied. "But don't confront her yet. Act normal until we have enough to file. If she suspects you're lawyering up, she might move faster." Acting normal was harder than Thomas expected. When he got home, Emily was there, cooking dinner as if nothing had happened. "Hey," she said, her tone cautious. "I thought we could eat and talk. Clear the air." Thomas forced a nod, sitting at the table. "Sure." He picked at the food, his mind on the bank transfer. Was she playing him, pretending to care while funneling money to Kate? "How's work?" he asked, probing. "Busy," Emily said, avoiding his eyes. "Just the usual. No mention of consulting or extra cash." Her vagueness fueled his resolve. He excused himself early, claiming a headache, and retreated to the guest room. Alone, he checked his email. Rachel had sent a preliminary report. Kate had booked a one-way flight to San Francisco for next month, and Emily's name was on the reservation. The pieces were falling into place. They were planning a getaway, maybe more. Thomas's anger hardened into a plan. He wouldn't confront Emily yet, but he'd build an airtight case. He transferred his next paycheck to a new account, as David advised, and emailed Rachel to prioritize tracking any property searches or lease agreements in Kate's name. If they were planning a life together, he'd catch them before they could blindside him. By midnight, Thomas lay awake, his mind racing. Emily's betrayal wasn't just personal. It was a calculated move to reshape their future without him. But he wasn't the same trusting husband anymore. He was ready to outmaneuver her, protect his assets, and expose the truth. Whatever Rachel uncovered next would decide his final move. Thomas sat at the kitchen table, the clock ticking past 6:30 p.m. His plan was set. Rachel, the private investigator, had delivered her final report that morning. Emily and Kate had leased an apartment in San Francisco, funded partly by the $5,000 transfer from their joint account. Emails between them confirmed their intent to move there together, with Emily describing it as our fresh start. The betrayal was no longer a suspicion. It was fact. Tonight, Thomas would confront them, armed with evidence and his lawyer's backing. He'd spent the day preparing. David, his divorce attorney, had drafted a filing to freeze their joint accounts and secure the house, citing Emily's financial misconduct. Thomas had also gathered printouts of Rachel's findings, bank records, lease agreements, and screenshots of Emily's emails. The folder lay on the table, a silent weapon. He'd invited Emily and Kate for dinner, framing it as a chance to talk things out. Emily had agreed, unaware of the trap. The doorbell rang at 7 p.m. sharp. Emily arrived first, her steps hesitant as she entered. Kate followed, her posture stiff, avoiding Thomas's gaze. "Thanks for coming," Thomas said, his voice steady but cold. He gestured to the table, where 3 plates were set. "Let's eat and get this over with." Emily sat, her hands fidgeting. "I'm glad we're doing this," she said, her tone forced. "I want us to be honest." Kate nodded, but said nothing, her silence betraying her unease. Thomas served the food, keeping the conversation light. Work, weather, while his pulse thrummed with anticipation. He waited until they'd eaten a few bites before making his move. "I've been thinking about your proposal," Thomas said, leaning back in his chair. Emily's eyes flickered with hope, but he continued, "The one about opening our marriage. I did some digging to understand it better." He reached for the folder and slid it across the table. "This is what I found." Emily's face paled as she opened it. Kate leaned over, her breath catching as she saw the lease agreement with their names. "Thomas, what is this?" Emily asked, her voice trembling. "Proof," Thomas said, his tone unwavering. "You've been planning to leave me for Kate. You leased an apartment in San Francisco, used our money to fund it, and didn't think I'd notice. You've been lying for weeks, maybe longer." He flipped to the email printouts. "Here's you calling it our fresh start. Sound familiar?" Kate's jaw tightened. "This is private," she snapped, but her voice lacked conviction. Emily's hands shook as she scanned the pages, her composure crumbling. "Private?" Thomas scoffed. "You made it my business when you used our savings. When you planned a life behind my back." He turned to Emily. "You said you wanted honesty, but you've been sneaking around, thinking I'd just roll over." Emily's eyes welled up. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she said, her voice breaking. "I was confused. I thought, maybe we could all—" "Stop," Thomas cut her off. "You thought you could have it all. Me, Kate, a new life, without consequences. But here's what's happening now." He pulled out another document, the divorce filing. "I'm done. I'm filing tomorrow. The accounts are frozen, and I'm keeping the house. You misused our money, Emily. That's on you." Kate stood, her chair scraping the floor. "You're blowing this out of proportion," she said, but her voice wavered. "We didn't do anything illegal." "Really?" Thomas countered. "Because your boss might disagree. I sent a copy of this to your firm, Kate. Leasing an apartment with a married woman's joint funds while you're a lawyer? That's an ethics violation." Kate froze, her face draining of color. She worked at a prestigious law firm, and a scandal like this could end her career. Emily sobbed, clutching the folder. "Thomas, please. I love you. We can fix this." "You don't fix betrayal," Thomas said, his voice firm but not cruel. "You broke our vows, Emily. You and Kate made choices, and now you'll face them." He stood, signaling the end. "I'm staying at Mike's tonight. My lawyer will be in touch." Kate grabbed her bag, muttering, "This isn't over," but she left without another word. Emily lingered, tears streaming, but Thomas didn't waver. "Go," he said quietly. She nodded, defeated, and walked out. Alone, Thomas exhaled, the tension draining from his body. He'd exposed their lies without losing control. Rachel's evidence had given him the upper hand, and David's strategy ensured he'd walk away with what was his. But as he packed a bag for Mike's, a pang of grief hit. He'd loved Emily once, deeply. That was gone now, replaced by resolve. He locked the door and drove off, ready for what came next. Thomas stood in the Seattle courthouse, the divorce papers signed and finalized. It was 3 months since the explosive dinner where he'd confronted Emily and Kate with evidence of their betrayal. The folder of bank records, lease agreements, and emails had secured his position. The judge ruled in his favor. The house and most of their savings stayed with him, citing Emily's misuse of joint funds. Now, at 10:17 a.m., he walked out into the crisp spring air, a free man. The weight of the past lifted, replaced by a quiet resolve to move forward. The aftermath of that night had unfolded swiftly. Kate's law firm launched an internal review after Thomas's tip about her ethics violation. By the next week, she was let go, her reputation in tatters. Friends and colleagues distanced themselves, unwilling to be tied to the scandal. Emily, meanwhile, moved in with her sister, cut off from the life she'd planned with Kate. She'd sent Thomas a letter 2 weeks ago, apologizing and asking to reconcile, but he didn't reply. Her words felt hollow after months of lies. Thomas had spent those months rebuilding. He'd hired movers to clear out Emily's belongings, keeping only what was legally his. The house, once a symbol of their shared dreams, was now his sanctuary. He'd also started therapy, not to dwell on the past, but to process the anger and grief. His therapist, a direct woman named Clara, helped him see that Emily's choices weren't his failure. "You acted with integrity," Clara said in their last session. "Now focus on what you want next." What he wanted was a fresh start. His architecture firm had a new project in Portland, a sustainable housing complex, and they'd offered him a lead role. It meant relocating, a chance to leave Seattle's ghosts behind. He accepted, signing a lease for a small apartment near Portland's waterfront. The move was set for next week, and he felt a spark of excitement he hadn't known in months. Before leaving, Thomas met Mike for a final beer at their usual bar. It was 7:42 p.m., the place buzzing with Friday night energy. Mike raised his glass. "To new beginnings, man. You handled this like a pro." Thomas clinked his glass, a faint smile breaking through. "I had to. Couldn't let them walk all over me." He took a sip, then added, "I thought I'd feel more vindictive, but I just feel free." "That's because you did it right," Mike said. "No screaming matches, no dirty tricks. You used the truth, and it hit harder than any fight could." Thomas nodded. The truth had been his weapon. Rachel's investigation, David's legal strategy, and his own restraint had ensured Emily and Kate faced real consequences. Emily was starting over with little, her dreams of San Francisco shattered. Kate's career implosion was a public lesson in accountability. They'd chosen their path, and Thomas had ensured it led to justice, not chaos. As he packed the last of his boxes 2 days later, his phone buzzed. A text from an old college friend, Lena, who'd heard about the divorce through mutual contacts. "In Portland next month for work," she wrote. "Coffee if you're free?" Thomas hesitated, then replied, "Sounds good." It wasn't a date, just a step toward connection. He wasn't rushing into anything, but the idea of new people, new possibilities felt right. On moving day, Thomas drove south, the Portland skyline emerging through the morning mist. His new apartment was bare, just a mattress and a few boxes, but it was his. He stood by the window, watching boats glide along the river. The betrayal, the confrontation, the courtroom, all of it felt distant now, like a storm that had passed. He'd fought for himself, not with fists or vengeance, but with evidence and resolve. Emily and Kate's choices had consequences, and he'd made sure they faced them. Thomas opened his laptop, pulling up the Portland project plans. Lines and measurements filled the screen, a puzzle he could solve. This was his life now, work he loved, a city to explore, and a chance to rebuild on his terms. He closed the laptop and grabbed his keys. A nearby cafe was open, and he was hungry. As he stepped outside, the future felt wide open, and for the first time in months, he was ready to meet it.